I believe we're on time. The county commissioners hold their meeting using Zoom technology, and the public may view it utilizing YouTube live stream at cumberlandcounty.org/live. If you wish to submit public comments, please email them to Kennedy, and that's KENNEDY, at cumberlandcounty.org prior or during the meeting. Again, that's KENNEDY at cumberlandcounty.org.
Commissioner, can we stop and pause for 1 second? Travis, do you have us a recording?
Yes, we're streaming live, Jim. As of
We are? Okay, I didn't see the symbol up in the upper left-hand corner. Sorry for the interruption.
No problem. So I call the meeting to order and ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I would ask for a vote to accept the agenda as presented. Just indicate by waving your hand or something here so we see. Tom? Yep. Okay.
Jim Cloutier votes no.
Unfair.
This is the time we should do the appointments.
I'm confused enough as it is, so let's may I have a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of December 14th, 2020? Can I have
I'll
a
second.
I have one suggestion. I don't think that during the discussion about the risk pool, that I was the one that suggested that we pull away from it. I think that ended up was when there was a consensus to do such at the end of the discussion. And I guess I realize I'm picking at feathers here, but I'd like to make that one amendment if it's all right. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, I'd like to, I asked we accept the minutes as amended.
So moved.
So moved.
Commissioner, I think we need a roll call vote.
A roll call? All right.
Yes, all votes are done by roll call.
All right.
So Tom Coward,
Yes.
Sue Atonis,
Yes.
Neil Jameson,
Yes.
Steve Gordon,
Yes.
and I don't think Mr. Cloutier has joined us, so show Jim Cloutier absent.
Okay. Informational reports and presentation. Jim.
Thank you. We have two this evening. The first is a presentation or just an update from Travis concerning a solar project that we're moving forward with. So I will stop there and turn the table over to Travis to present this item.
Sure, thank you. I think there should have been a short briefing in your agenda packet, but Cumberland County, after consulting with several entities that have been doing this work over the past few years, have decided to move forward. Sorry, I'm just going to let Commissioner Cloutier in. To move forward with an RFP to find a willing partner to enter into what's called a net energy billing agreement with a solar provider. And very simply, we have an agreement to purchase our energy through Central Maine Power on 7 different commercial accounts. What we're now going to do is augment that relationship by also selling them some energy. It's not energy that we're producing, but we're effectively entering into or looking to enter into a partnership with a solar producer. We will claim a number of the kilowatts that producer is making and delivering to the grid. Central Maine Power will pay us the credit as a net energy billing customer for selling them solar power, and we will pay most of that credit back to the developer. So if that makes sense, essentially what we're doing is we're claiming a solar credit that the developer can't collect directly. And for our trouble, we're able to keep some of it. So there's no upfront investment to Cumberland County. There's no ongoing investment to Cumberland County. It's purely a savings that we'll start to see once the project is online that we end up becoming affiliated with. So we're developing an RFP. We have a consultant that's been helping us to make sure it's developed in our best interests. We'll release it hopefully before the end of the week, and then we'll report back to you on what we get for responses. But we feel pretty confident about this being a situation where there's basically no risk to Cumberland County to enter into one of these agreements, and we ought to start saving a significant amount of money, probably in the 5-figure range per year on our electricity. And at the same time, we're facilitating a large amount of new clean renewable energy being developed and piped into the main grid right away. So we're about to release the RFP. We feel pretty good about its contents as of this morning. We hope to let you all know what our options are pretty soon. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, any questions of Travis? Travis, Tom, go ahead.
Travis, this is not an investment thing. We're not investing money in the producer.
It's not an investment, no. So, I mean, the best way I can describe it is a net energy billing contract is an agreement for buying and selling energy between a Central Maine Power customer. The company that's creating the solar power, that's harnessing it, can't be that customer that is selling the power to the grid. They need ratepayers to be essentially a collective community solar farm and sell that power to the grid. So all we're doing is we're essentially claiming an amount of that power that's being sold to the grid and saying, that's from us. In return, we have a contract with whomever we end up signing with to return the credits that Central Maine Power pays to us for that solar power. We're sort of serving as a middleman, which is what the new state law allows for us to do. And as a benefit, the state gets a lot more solar energy. The power developer gets those credits returned to them, and Cumberland County gets a portion of that credit to keep.
Okay, good. That's, I mean, my concern as always is what can go wrong, and it sounds like it's kind of hard for something to go wrong. If they don't produce the energy, we don't get the credit, but then we haven't paid for anything that we didn't get. So
yeah, right, we aren't buying anything, we aren't building anything, there's no liability. If the reimbursement changes over time, what's important is that the contract we choose reflects that we never end up underwater, because our reimbursement ends up being lower than what we owe them. And so that's just it's a matter of due diligence when we review the contracts to make sure that circumstance doesn't come up. But aside from that, there's no risk to us, no.
Fine, thank you.
Any other questions? Travis, I have two. One is, what's the duration generally of these contracts?
Generally, it's 20 years. There are some contracts that can allow for different periodical exits. The only difference from what I understand, and again, we haven't, we're asking for providers to give us several different options, including different durations, but my understanding is you may gain the largest financial benefit, the largest portion of the credit that we get to keep by signing a 20-year contract. And if we sign a contract that has certain exit points, then the amount of that credit we get to keep may be a little bit smaller. So we'll see when we get responses, but typically 20 years.
The second question I have, is it both power and transmission that you get credit for?
So this is purely a credit for, I believe, for what's developed.
Power. It's just
for
power.
just, for just the power that's being developed.
So we have to pay the transmission fee.
Well, remember, we're not, we have an agreement that we're purchasing our electricity from them on. And this agreement is purely on the power that's being delivered to them by our partner. So all other associated fees with transmitting it to the grid and so forth are not our responsibility. We're solely responsible for claiming an amount of the power that was delivered to the grid.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was wondering, because if you produce your own solar power,
Mhm.
you then reclaim, you're not charged the fee of transmission.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So
Thank you.
it's similar, but a little bit different.
Any other questions on this? Next issue? Jim?
Next item I have is just an update to the commissioners that, as the commissioners are aware, each year we go through a CDBG funding cycle, and through the bylaws of the Municipal Oversight Committee, it allows for the county to sponsor 5 applications in the process. Kristen Stiles has provided a memo that's in your packet that talks about the receipt of 9 applications to the county program, and she, working with Travis, have microed that down to 5 applications that they will be bringing forth under the county sponsorship for the Municipal Oversight Committee to review. The 3 remaining that did not make the list, those applications tend to be able to be funded through other county funds that we will be, or we have received or will be receiving through CARE Act money. And that's how we will contribute funds that way to those 3 individuals. So the 5 applications that we'll be bringing forward would be one from Alpha One, the second being the Department of Corrections, the third Habitat for Humanity, the fourth Opportunity Alliance Homeless Prevention Program, and 5th is the Through These Doors Abuse in Later Life Program. So those are the 5 that are in the cycle, and really no need for a vote, just information for the commissioners only.
Good. Any questions of Jim?
Yes. Jim, a question, at an appropriate time, I'd like to have quite a bit more background on that juvenile program with the Department of Corrections. Just what the scope of that is, how much we're being asked to do on that. Seems like that's something the Department of Corrections ought to be taking care of to me, but usually the understanding is in the details, so I'd like to get to the details at some point.
Sure, absolutely.
Any other
The-
questions? Go ahead. Excuse me, Jim. Jim, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Lastly, in this area, I would like to provide an introduction to the commissioners of our new EMA director who's joining us this evening. Matt Mayer has joined us. He is now on the job, maybe a month now, Matt? I think December 16th was the date he started with us. And he has hit the ground running and is actively involved in many of the issues or projects that EMA is working on, and has really dove into the vaccination and distribution throughout Cumberland County of late. So welcome aboard, Matt, and hopefully sometime soon when he gets us all vaccinated, we can meet in person and you can shake his hand. So we'll get to that day. We're optimistic. So with that, Commissioner, I am all set with the information and presentations. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to the consent agenda. And may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda from 21,001 through 21,005?
So moved,
So
Mr.
moved.
Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Commissioner,
Discussion.
Chair?
Yes.
It is, can we do 21,001 to 21,004 is the consent calendar?
I thought that's what he said.
But, yeah.
No, he
I
said,
thought he said 005.
I did say
Oh.
5.
Okay.
Oh, I apologize.
I've got. Okay. So here's what I have, and and it would be my fault because I've written something off in to make notes to myself. 21001 is the approval of the contract for Trinity Service Group for bulk food services at the jail. It's approximately $40,000 as the jail population fluctuates. This 21002, the appointment of Jamie M. Crane. And,
Commissioner, that's been moved.
okay,
The new agenda does not have that. That's a 005.
okay. Okay. So award of bid to O'Connor Motors for the purchase of a new 1-ton dump with plow. It's $52,250 and it's got a 9.5-foot blade. 21004, approve of the minor amendment to the 2020 CDBG annual action plan required by the feds. It's a decrease of $238. And an award of a bid to Carpet Specialist for Community Corrections Building tiling of $46,915. Just for the public's information, these are items upon which the commissioners have been educated during public meetings. Is there anybody that wants discussion on this? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Raise your hand, please.
Well, do we need a roll call?
Yeah, yes, we do. Sorry, Tom, good
That's
catch.
okay.
No, good catch.
Neil Jameson,
Yes.
Steve Gordon,
Yes,
Sue Tonis,
Yes.
Tom Coward,
Yes,
Jim Cludier.
Yes.
Show the vote 5-0.
new business and,
Commissioner, if I could jump in, what you were reading under, I think it was 21002, the appointment to the Board of Assessment Review,
Yeah.
that is now 21005, so that should be up next.
okay. The appointment of Jamie M. Crane and Stephen Byther. And don't we have a reappointment? Clint Sweat?
Clint Sweat opted not to apply, but we do have a reappointment of Peter Coyne.
Peter Coyne.
Yes, good catch, Commissioner.
All right. To the Board of Assessment Review. And this is new business?
This is new business as it is an appointment, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to, if anyone had any questions on the appointments to the Board of Assessment Review, you could ask questions. If it was on the consent calendar, you wouldn't have been able to ask a question.
Gotcha. May I have a motion to accept the appointments?
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion.
I just make a comment. I've known Stephen Byther for 35 years. We were in law school together. First rate attorney, first rate mind. He'll do a great job there. That's all.
Tom?
yeah, just a question, sort of an educational question about the Board of Assessment Review. How often do they meet? I know it's as needed, but what does that usually work out to be per year?
As needed. I think the last time they met was maybe a year and a half ago.
Okay,
We will be meeting in February to take up 2 applications that have come in the last month. But it's typically when we get applications, we call them into service.
okay. So it's a standby board that's extremely useful to us. I know other counties don't do it this way, and the commissioners have to hear these assessment reviews. And what I uniformly hear from other commissioners is they would just as soon not do them if they didn't have to. It is something that is specialized. You need to understand tax assessments. which is a somewhat arcane branch of, I don't know what, mathematics or accounting or appraising or something. So I'm happy to have people volunteer to do this. It takes a load off of us, and they can, the people who are appointed generally are much more qualified than, for instance, I would be to be making this kind of a decision. So thank you to the people who are on this board.
Thanks, Tom. Now, I guess I turn this over to you, Jim, because we're into new business and you've got the agenda.
I believe we need to have do we have a motion and a second on the table? If we
We
do,
do.
we need to have a vote then.
Oh, yeah, you need to call it.
Neil Jameson,
Yes.
Steve Gordon,
Yes.
Sue Atonis,
Yes.
Tom Coward,
Yes.
Jim Cludier.
Yes,
Show the vote 5-0.
So 21006.
21-106 is the amending of the non-union personnel policy. There are some minor amendments to this policy brought forward from the HR office, and I'm going to turn it over to Don Brewer to present the changes. Don, all yours.
Good evening. Let me just quickly review, not a lot of changes. There's a few housekeeping changes to the non-union personnel policy. Article 4, we had to do some corrections of some definitions. In some of those definitions that were in there, we had non-union people showing sick time and vacation leave when it really should have been earned time. So we picked up on that and made that correction. Article 4.4 B and C, we've changed vacation and sick time to earned time, which is really in fact what they have non-union employees. In Article 9.1, in the third paragraph, we made a change to that to basically say leaves of absence for illness or other disability must be processed in accordance with federal or state Family Medical Leave Act or the Americans with Disabilities Act or other state federal laws as may apply. We deleted the last sentence in that third paragraph because it was confusing, was not accurate, and it didn't make any sense if you read it closely. So that has been changed. Section 9.2 in that same article, what we did under holiday leave, we've really added the new holiday the day after Thanksgiving. We've included that, and we've changed Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. Section 9.4 really is the main, the biggest change to the policy. It's for earned paid leave, and this is commensurate with the new state law that went into effect January 1st of this year, of this month. In effect, all employees in the state of Maine, whether they're part-time, if they're not benefit eligible, everyone will be able to accrue up to 40 hours of paid time off for what they do is they earn 1 hour of paid time off for every 40 hours worked, for up to a maximum of 40 hours of paid time off annually. That is a new law that went into effect this year. So we have put policy, we've added this section into the personnel policy to be compliant with that new law. Section 9.5 in that same article, we have added a section that clarifies that employees, if they're on family medical leave, ordinarily we would expect them to pay themselves with their earned time to the extent available. The family medical leave does say that if employees say have income protection plan and they're out then they do not need to, they're not required to use their paid time off to pay themselves during that period. So we added that to be clarified. And lastly, drug testing policy, we have had a change in our third-party administrator. So that change is to reflect the new third-party administrator who we're working with to oversee our drug testing program. And this is really for our transport drivers at the jail. I serve as a designated employer representative for drug and alcohol testing. So we need to keep our policy up to date. And we have modified a little bit, added more clarity to the substances that are tested for. So that has been that's one of the changes. And lastly, under the infection.
You're frozen, Don.
Yeah, that's what you get for broadband up in the mid-coast area.
I like the expression on his face, though.
I have a question on this earned paid leave. Is this for medical? Or is this just time off?
Earned paid leave would typically be time off, just a broader definition of it.
So if we give 4 weeks of vacation to somebody, they get a 5th week?
No, this only applies to employees who might otherwise miss out on it. So it involves to a very small subsection of employees where it doesn't go quite right.
Okay.
So we've got folks tracking down that very small group.
Steve,
Yo,
if I may, I had a question about that as well. What it says is employees are entitled to earn a minimum of 1 hour. I mean, what do they actually get?
What we do treat it as an entirely separate tacked onto the accrual table for those employees to get it at a rate depending on number of hours worked. So the employees for whom this falls in are employees who are essentially permanent part-time and otherwise wouldn't get earned time under our normal.
Okay, so
Get time under
so
our
what
normal.
this is a floor under which they can't fall, right? So I mean, if
Correct.
for whatever is permanent part-time, they wouldn't ordinarily accrue anything, they get 1 hour for every 40 hours they work, regardless of what our rest of our policy says. Is that? Because I thought
Yeah.
the wording was a little bit strange, you know? I mean, do they get an hour? Do they get 2 hours? They get 3 hours, whatever.
And it varies depending on the hours worked, but your
Okay.
treatment of it as a floor is exactly correct.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
And just as another little side note on that, for people for whom they don't need to use time and their schedule is flexible to begin with, such as elected officials, this also doesn't apply.
So we don't get any
Just a
time
very
off.
small subsection of our employees. Yeah.
So we get no time off, no matter how
Yeah.
much we work. Okay.
Uh,
yeah, if we did, Tom, I'd start these meetings at 8 in the morning and.
All
It's a
right.
labor of love.
24 hours a day,
Yeah.
always on call. That'd be great.
Yeah. Well, I guess we've lost Don, haven't we?
He's just disappeared completely.
Yeah. All right.
I hope the mid coast is still with us, you know.
Well, I think the last areas that he was getting to, and I was thumbing along here, and it's just better definitions around the substances tested for through our testing procedures. So there was some minor amendments there. Nothing to any great extent or any real change, just better language.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve this item, 2106?
So moved.
Those in favor? Or do we have any discussion, further discussion?
I guess who was the motion? I mean, the motion was Neil. Who was the second?
Claudia.
I
Okay,
think,
Jim?
yeah, no,
Commissioner Cloutier.
he'll beat me to the motion so I can be the second if nobody else is.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve item 2107, approval of the county's hazardous material plan?
Well, Mr. Commissioner, can we do a roll call vote for the personnel policy?
No, I think we've got that covered. Yes, go ahead.
Neil Jameson? Neil?
Oh, I didn't hear that. Yes.
Steve Gordon?
Yes.
Sue Atonis?
Yes.
Tom Coward?
Yes,
Jim Cludier?
Yes,
Show the vote 5-0.
Okay, now may I have a motion to approve 21007, hazardous material plan?
so moved.
Jim Cludier moved. Can I have a second?
Second.
Neil seconded.
Commissioner, can I present this item and pass it on to EMA? Because I know EMA has some
Absolutely.
presentation and a PowerPoint to walk through if that's amenable to the commissioners.
Fine.
Who would like to take a lead on this, Matt or Chris?
Chris is going to take the lead on it.
Okay, thank you. It's all yours, Chris.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, councilmen, senior Cumberland County staff, and esteemed guests. My name is Chris Wheeler. I work with Cumberland County Emergency Management and the function of LEPC liaison. I'd like to go ahead and present a brief summation of what we have in our hazmat plan. As you saw, it was quite extensive, 773 pages-ish, which is quite a bit to compile in one plan. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get to this.
Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, is it possible to be enabled for sharing? Sorry.
Yeah, Travis also has the PowerPoint. There you go.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you, Travis. And Travis, do you want me to drive this or would you like to do it?
You go ahead. Just tell me when to click, Chris.
If you wouldn't mind clicking, sir, that would be great.
Can we turn off that background stuff that's going on? Because I can hardly hear. Okay, I think it's gone now. Oops, no, it's not.
Oh, I think we lost the presentation. I'm sorry. Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate your being here tonight and inviting us in to present our plan. This is the Cumberland County Hazmat Plan. I'm not going to read every slide because I know you all have had a chance to see this. If you have any specific questions as we go through, please feel free to ask. So we have our process, the requirement, which is reviewed by the county commissioners and approved once every 5 years. Our recommendation is to approve the approval of the plan and coordinate commission signatures. This is one of those plans that has to actually have ink signatures on it so that we can send it up to CERC for their final, thumbs up. You guys have completed your hazmat plan on time. Next slide, please. Cumberland County LEPC goals. Long story short, I can summarize this in one real quick blurb. Our job is to serve the people and the facilities of this county. We take it very seriously, and our goal is to make sure that the facilities and the fire departments who are actually going to be dealing with these potential spills have exactly what they need to get the job done. Long story short. Next slide, please. LEPC team members. Susan, again, thank you very much for being our head. And next slide, please. So this is the number of facilities, 413 last year. The calendar years are kind of wonky with the reporting years, but we had 413, which is up, I think, about 5 from the previous year. We attribute that to additional outreach that we've performed since, I want to say, January of last year. Next slide, please, Travis. Okay, so a quick stat snapshot, right? So the green is in non-extremely hazardous substances. Your lead, your kind of just the general cleaning agents that you would normally have, but more in bulk quantities, And then we have our extremely hazardous substances, which is 106 facilities, and then so extremely hazardous substance, which is EHS. And then we have a special category, which is extremely hazardous substances with off-site consequences. Typically, this will be the gases, like your anhydrous ammonia, your chlorine gas, et cetera. So within the plan, there is a plume model that is done up as a sample to basically show people who are reading it kind of what we're looking at as far as based upon quantities that were given to us at the time of reporting. Next slide, please.
Chris, can I interrupt for a
Certainly,
second?
by all means.
Yeah, I saw in your slide of the people that you served, there was one, at least that caught my eye, that was outside of Cumberland County, and that was Bath Iron Works.
Yes, Bath Iron Works does actually have a facility inside of Cumberland County. I can't remember the name of the facility, but it is recorded within Cumberland County's borders. I think it's like I want to say metal fabrication. And typically it's the solvents that they use to prep the metal prior to conducting welding on them.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
So lead acid sulfuric. So basically every battery that's got liquid in it falls into the lead acid battery. Sulfuric acid is a extremely hazardous substance, and so it's on our list. Next slide, please. Receptors kind of threw me the first time I saw receptors in here, but basically these are the people that could be potentially affected by any kind of chemicals that have an off-site consequence. Give you a quick minute to take a look at those. All right, so this is what's in the plan. If you had a chance to review it, I understand it is quite large, right? Each facility that actually has off-site consequences, we create this plume model. The red circle there being basically the ultimate radius if the worst case scenario occurred. Frequently, chemical spills are not the worst case scenario. This is like this particular scenario here is if it was all released at once, not a lesser period of time, or like over a longer period of time, a lesser quantity. Next slide, please. And this is just a protection zone that the firefighters can basically use to say, okay, everyone within this area, we have to find some kind of a resolution for. Next slide, please. And this is basically the breakdown of the different types of facilities that could be impacted by that larger red ring. Okay, so we break them down into schools, police departments, fire and EMS. This is just representative. I mean, there are a lot of facilities, everything from government offices to train stations that are in the plan for each individual facility. Next slide, please. And this is a sample of plume model. Okay, so A in the upper left-hand corner is usually the worst case scenario. And then slowly we just start downgrading it. So from 161 pounds per minute of spill of anhydrous ammonia, all the way down to 1 pound spilled per minute. So it's just kind of gives the fire department a chance to kind of gauge it. Okay, so how much do I actually have coming out? How big is the area I really need to be looking at? Next slide, please. Trends. Okay, so we noticed this when we were looking at our database year over year for the last couple of years. A lot of our chemical facilities are carrying 2 to 4 times what they would normally carry. And we do believe that this was because of the pandemic. We're hopeful that these these products will not be imported quite as much, or they won't need as much because they're not worried about supply chain issues. So we're hopeful that will decrease in the years to come. Next slide, please. Moving forward. All right, so this is where we're going. So we've all seen the plan that we have that's at 770 pages. There's nobody in their right mind that's going to be able to read that while they're responding to a hazmat incident. It's just not possible or feasible. So what we're looking to do is start developing IT solutions to help get real-time data into first responders on scene. Right now, the way it works is if there was a hazardous spill, Cumberland County would be notified, Department of Environmental Protection would be or Maine DEP would be notified, and then we would start basically spinning up to try and get them an accurate idea of where is this going to go, how many people are going to be impacted, but that eats time, right? So the first responders need something that's quick, simple, a couple buttons. I did a little bit of research and we've found a couple solutions that look good. We haven't really gone into it any further than that, and we're looking to move forward into this particular areas. So if you wouldn't mind, Travis. Again, these are just simple plans. Simple is key. Fire, first responders, hazmat teams do not have time to be looking at really complicated things. These products are all generally update. It takes 5 minutes usually for the first one, and then they automatically update based upon current weather for a given area. So as the wind shifts and that plume starts to shift, it will show them. It makes it more useful to them so they have actionable material on scene, which makes it easier for everyone concerned because basically they are really driving the bus versus relying upon information from the back of the bus to try and drive the bus, if you would. Next slide, please. And these are some other examples of different types of products that are available. And next slide, Travis. Again, we have not decided on any of these. However, this is the direction that we're looking to go. We're trying to make this as useful as possible to the fire teams, to the firefighters and the hazmat teams. Next slide, please. And last slide, I believe. Are there any questions that anyone has in regards to the hazmat plan? If it's a long question or something like that, I have no problem emailing you back the answer. So I'm not taking up additional time.
Jim,
I just, that's an excellent presentation, first of all, and it seems like a very solid idea. In terms of evaluating the various alternatives you're going to be looking at, do you have a consultation concept for dealing with the firefighting entities in the county as you're going through that?
Excellent question. Thank you for asking. So most of those products have like a free 30-day trial. So what I've done is I've enlisted some LEPC members that will help me basically. So I'm going to sign up for the free 30-day trial, and we're going to try it. We're going to go to different sites, see if we can get create a fictitious spill of anhydrous ammonia, for instance, and see if we can actually, does this product work within the confines of Cumberland County? Because we all know cell phone can be a little bit spotty, and this is going to be a data thing, right? It's going to be relying upon that being able to get that data. So we're going to try it. If it works, then we're going to ask for another, most of them have an agreement, whereas if you're something that you're looked at and you're serious about it, where we could give it to the firefighters and see if they like it. So as we kind of test them, we'll go through it and then we'll make our evaluation and see if it's something that's possible to either procure from LEPC funds, maybe, or if there's other avenues that we need for financing of that. But most of them are really reasonable, surprisingly. And for real-time plume data, that's pretty important. So we're excited about it. Thank you, James.
seems kind of sophisticated.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Chris? Well, thank you, Chris. I really appreciate that.
Thanks.
It lets us know and the public know that somebody's staying on top of this diligently.
We do our best, sir.
Thank you. And thank you, Matt. The next one is the commissioner assignments. May I have a motion to approve item 21008?
Commissioner Gordon, can we get a motion in a second on the hazmat plan?
Go moved.
Okay, I think we have the motion, don't we?
I'll second it.
Yeah, go ahead. Those in favor?
A roll call vote.
Yep,
Neil Jameson,
Yes.
Steve Gordon,
yep.
Sue Atonis,
Yes.
Tom Coward,
Yes.
Jim Cloutier.
Yes.
Terrific. Show the vote 5-0. Chris, nice job presenting 750 pages worth of material and 11 slides. So congratulations. Thank you for all your help on that. Okay, Commissioner, we're ready for the next item.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve 21008, commissioner assignments? Sue, second?
Second.
I'll second.
Tom Coward, second. Any discussion? Jim, you want to give the roll call?
Sure. Neil Jameson,
Yes.
Steve Gordon,
Yes.
Sue Atonis,
Yes.
Tom Coward,
Yes.
Jim Cloutier.
Yes.
Show the vote 5-0.
Item 21009, may I have a motion to request the surplus transfer of funds from 350K to down to 150K for COVID testing. Neil?
Mr. Chair, I move that the county commissioners authorize the transfer of $350,000 from the 2020 fund balance to fund the following items. One, $300,000 into a contingency fund to cover purchases of testing supplies for the Abbott COVID-19 testing machine,
Machine, I think.
Machine.
Anyway, at the Cumberland County Jail, and $50,000 to fund additional expenses out of the accrued compensated balances fund during the course of 2020.
I'll second that.
Do I have any
Can-
discussion?
If, Commissioner, could I jump in and make a request of the commissioners?
Yep.
This is something that we've been working on, and there is, as you just read, or heard, there is $300,000 request for testing for the Abbott machine. That is because the federal government was paying for the tests up until December 31st of 2020. After that date, we are now on the hook for paying for the tests. And so this is a unbudgeted item that we have. The sheriff and I feel as though it's very important to move forward with and continue the proactive testing that we are doing down at the jail, as each person that comes through intake is being tested to assure the safest jail possible. And we are in need of keeping those tests alive and well stocked within the jail. But it's going to be on the county nickel. What I'm asking the commissioners for, and when we drafted up this last week for your packets, we were at the $300,000 limit. Since then, I've been talking with some staff members, and we're going to look at alternative funding for this. And so what I'm asking the commissioners tonight is to reduce that $300,000 down to $100,000, giving us an opportunity to explore other funding to go in its place for purchasing of the Abbott tests versus using county funds. So if you wouldn't mind considering an amendment to reduce the $300,000 down to $100,000, so we would actually be making a motion for $150,000 versus the $350,000.
Mr. Chair, I will amend my initial motion to reduce the ask from 350 down to 150.
Do we need a second on that?
Yep.
Yes.
Second it.
Any further discussion? Roll call, Jim?
Neil Jameson,
Yes.
Steve Gordon,
Yes.
Sue Witonis,
Yes.
Tom Coward,
Yes.
Jim Cloutier.
Yes,
Should the amended motion is 5-0.
I have a question here, just a comment on it. It seems if we gave up this testing, it would appear to me that the state must have some test that they would require us to use. And if they are requiring that, do they fund it, or are they just not funding anything?
Commissioner, I'd like to ask Sheriff Joyce, who is well versed in that category, to answer that question.
So good question, Commissioner, and thanks for asking. Yes, there's an alternative. It came out, it was actually started production around September, October. It's called a Binax now, which is a cheaper test. It's a test that's used in countries that don't have a lot of money. The unfortunate thing with this test is that it's only good and accurate with somebody who is symptomatic for COVID. Our Achilles heel is that asymptomatic people, whereas the product we're using now is the ID Now. It identifies asymptomatic people. Most of our people coming in, a large majority of the people that we've dealt with have been asymptomatic. They've been shocked that they've got it. So my fear is going to this other product that, yes, it is free through the state, is going to open us up to asymptomatic inmates coming into the jail and spreading it throughout the jail.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other discussion? Jim, you want to do a roll call?
Neil Jameson,
Yes.
Steve Gordon.
Excuse me, we've already voted. Sorry, Jim.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
Have we, point of order, have we voted on the amended motion? I don't think we have.
No, we voted on the amended motion first.
Yeah, we now have to vote on the main motion.
Ah, okay.
So the main motion, roll call, Neil Jameson,
Point of clarification, aren't we voting this down if we already voted the
no,
$50,000?
you amended the motion.
Okay, then yes.
Steve Gordon,
Yes.
Sue Witonis,
Yes.
Tom Coward,
Yes.
Jim Cloutier.
Yes.
Show the vote 5-0 for main motion.
Item 2110, huh? May I have a motion I've got to ratify the emergency appropriation of $158,000 to replace a portion of a failed courthouse boiler and award a bid to Patriot Mechanical LLC of Gorham, Maine.
So I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Second, Tom. Any discussion?
I have to say, I read the materials. Jim Gailey, do you have any further to add to this? I mean, it looks like this is a thing we've got to do. Otherwise, we're going to soon have an unheated courthouse or something. Potentially
Well,
have an unheated courthouse.
Luckily enough, we actually have two boilers in the basement. And we have a primary and we have a secondary. What we have done is we have just shifted over the heating services for the courthouse over to the secondary boiler while the primary one is down. And we're in need of fixing. It's not taking the entire boiler out of the basement, but it's taking a good portion of the boiler. As if you know, boilers are made of like slices. It's almost like sliced bread. And we got to fix a number of those slices in the boiler that have failed on us. It's a boiler that goes back to the 1960s. And so it's going to be quite a chore trying to cut that up and get it out of the basement, which is about 20 feet below road grade. But we need to do an emergency appropriation because we're in heating season and we need to assure ourselves a primary and secondary. So we have reached out directly to our vendor for our annual maintenance of those boilers and received a negotiated quote of $158,000 to do the work. And the work will actually start, I believe, later this week.
Yeah. And Jim, just as a point of clarification on this, I mean, are we looking also at replacing those ancient boilers?
Not at this time, no.
Is that on the horizon somewhere? I mean, I've worked on old boilers before back in the dimness of time, believe it or not, and they are behemoth pieces of machinery. And, you know, as you point out, when they go wrong, you've got to cut them to pieces and haul the pieces out. And I'm just wondering whether we ought to be looking at that for a slightly longer term project. I know our facilities people are always looking ahead to what can go wrong. Is this something that's on their agenda for some time in the future?
Well, this is probably going to be a project that when we get into the non-heating season, they would be able to jump inside those boilers and take a look for whether it's a short-term or a long-term capital project coming up.
Okay, but I'm perfectly happy with patching this thing up. And obviously we can't just operate on one boiler for a facility that size for very long. If the second one goes, and the second one is the same age, roughly the same age, right? I mean, it's not like this is, that's why I ask, are we going to look at the whole picture? Because, it's at some point you bite the bullet and you get good equipment in, and then you don't have to worry about it falling apart, in the next 10 years.
Sure.
So I'm very happy that you brought this to us. I'm happy that you've taken the initiative and gone out and got this thing taken care of. That's, and I certainly will intend to vote yes on this motion.
Thanks,
Are
Tom.
these the boilers that were part of the flood many years ago? Were they in that water?
Well, they were definitely in that water, sure.
So in other words, with the one remaining, probably has some real, was water issues, well, maybe?
Actually, I remember that. I don't think it got up to them. I think they were raised up enough that they didn't have too much damage.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Alex. Any other discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Neil Jameson,
Yes.
Steve Gordon,
Yes.
Sue Atonis,
Yes.
Tom Coward,
Yes.
Jim Cloutier.
Yes.
Show the vote 5-0.
Now that's all the new business we have, isn't it, Jim?
It is. We are at the point now of having a motion to go into executive session.
Wait a minute, I've got a piece of business I want to handle beforehand, because I suspect most of the public will drop off after we go into this. I want to express my appreciation to Tom Coward for what he did last year as chair, and how he caused this organization to move forward. And you know, the term I've used many times with commissioners, and I admit that I'm one of them. It's a hard job being a chair because it's like herding cats. You try to bring us all together, and we all have our own ideas from the disciplines that we come from, and you put them together, and by gosh, we make some pretty good soup. So Tom, congratulations for doing that. The public should really be appreciative of your efforts and the things you've done for Cumberland County. My hat's off to you.
Yeah, Steve, thank you very much. It was a pleasure. I have to say, I went out on my porch the other day and I found this mysterious blue box sitting out there with my your token of your appreciation for me, I guess, is what this thing is. And thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, it's not always herding cats. It's sometimes just organizing the discussion around a bunch of, I think, exemplary commissioners, and supported by first-rate staff to make things go well for the citizens of the county. And it's always a pleasure. I mean, we don't always agree on everything, but we do always discuss things fully and get things done. So I was very pleased to and honored to be able to chair this body during the last year. It's obviously been a challenging year, and I think all of us have stepped up and made this operation work. And we have the advantage that a lot of other counties don't have of extremely good staff, so that we can it makes our job easier. So anyway, appreciation for all of you and for all of your support over the past year, and I'm looking forward to moving over to the back bench, and I can sit on the sidelines and pitch in whenever I think my comments are useful or needed. So thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, now executive session. And let me say this to the public here, if I can get myself organized. We will be going into an executive session and go offline to deliberate this item, which may be up to a half hour. And after we come back into public session, we may vote on the issue and then finish the meeting agenda, which are comments of the manager, the staff, and the commissioners. If you so wish to wait for the amount of time, and as I say, it could be a half hour, maybe shorter, I would thank you for your patience. With that, can I have a motion to go into executive session?
Mr. Chair, I move pursuant to 1 MRSA Section 4056 to go in for this Board of Commissioners to go into executive session to discuss contract negotiations.
I'll second.
Tom seconds. Jim, you want to call a roll?
Neil Jameson,
Yes.
Steve Gordon,
Yes.
Sue Atonis,
Yes.
Tom Coward,
Yes.
Jim Cloutier,
Yes.